Hi, this is AP Stedham of AP As We See It live in Las Vegas, Nevada. The 2025 Big Ten Football Media Days. Our special guest will be discussing the Ohio State Buckeyes, and our special guest is
Stephanie Otey.
And what is your organization?
I'm with 97.1 The Fan out of Columbus.
Out of Columbus, Ohio. Very good. The first name we always discuss is the quarterback. There's multiple options this year for Ohio State. So I know Julian Sain was at Alabama for about 5 minutes.
Yep.
So, but he's in contention.
I talked with Nick Saban about that earlier this summer. He transferred right after Saban's retirement, and there's been whispers about Saban returning. But, with Julian Sain, at Student Appreciation, Coach has an open practice where we actually saw live reps. We actually weren't anticipating that. The quarterbacks played live. Tavian Sinclair, Coach has been pretty clear about that. He's steps away. He's clearly the quarterback number 3, but that's because of experience alone. But, this is probably the closer quarterback battle I've ever seen while covering Ohio State. Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow was probably tighter, but, the thumb injury to Burrow helped that decision come along when the opening came available in that Michigan game. But Julian's arm is what everyone talks about at that student appreciation practice. We saw him get picked off, and then it was Lincoln Kienholz who really had a strong showing. My initial thought when I saw them on the field was I was disheartened because Julian looked very short. I was like, is that a running back? But, field vision was a big conversation with Chip Kelly and Will Howard, but Lincoln, Julian had the better performance in the spring game. So Coach Day talked about, you got two lopsided visuals. So fall camp is going to be a strong tell. From my conversations today, I would gather that it's probably most likely, and I would lean certainly going to be Julian Sain though. But Lincoln hanging in there, and he's been on the roster for a bit and familiar with the team, and as long as you got that wide receiver room, we'll be fine.
Get it near Jeremiah, somewhere near the sky. He can grab it, right? He's exceptional. He's Julio Jones-esque. I knew Julio since he's 16, and I know Jeremiah to some degree, so he reminds me of Julio in his demeanor and his ability to get the ball in many different places. And when he makes a mistake, it's overlooked, and he's on to the next play. So that's exceptional for Jeremiah. He's the best receiver I saw this year as a freshman.
I think he's the best receiver we've ever seen. Yeah, I was at the NFL Combine, and his name was brought up, and he's got 2 more years of eligibility. And he's had such a strong composure. He's very humble, but he also has unbelievable confidence. And even if he's going to be guarded by multiple guys, that opens it up for Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis. We just saw Emeka Egbuka get drafted first round, 19th overall, to a team that already has a very strong wide receiver room in the Buccaneers. And so I think when you have someone that strong leading them at such a young age, JJ's been fairly quiet. He lets his play do the talking, but he's been more vocal. He's actually really helped with recruiting. His brother got an offer, or he got early looks, and he's been sending out tweets and really helping get some 5-stars come in and helping that along the way when you got teams like Oregon poaching them. So JJ's really been all in with the Buckeyes, and he came in guns blazing.
Will the offensive line be able to protect the quarterbacks?
The thing that's nice, last year that was the Achilles heel. Losing Josh Simmons in the Oregon game was brutal. Then before a top 5 matchup against Indiana on a Tuesday at practice, Seth McLaughlin, our Remington Award-winning center, also out. And
from Alabama, transferred from Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama.
So, and we saw how significantly that affected them in the draft, with Josh falling all the way down to 32. He was projected to be a top 10 pick, even with the injury. The Chiefs got him out of steal. But that line was such a vulnerable unit. Donovan Jackson was the unsung hero. And of all the storylines of that national championship season, Donnie was the one moving over to change and switch positions during the season up against top matchups. But the thing that did was open up our offensive line. Our guys have some very valuable reps, and you may see some movements again. Coach Day has talked a lot about versatility, especially with the extended playoff. A lot of NFL talk. He wants to bring NFL guys in to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, and that's because you have to sustain a longer season, making sure these guys can potentially move around. But I feel much more confident after the injuries on that unit. It was very, very strong going into the season, but once we saw the damage, they were able to make it work.
tight end is a position that can really take care of the quarterback and put him at ease as a safety valve. How about the tight ends at Ohio State?
Well, Keenan Bailey their tight ends coach has risen through the ranks significantly. Coach Day clearly has shown his belief in him. We're seeing a lot of coaches get the nod that they deserve. I mean, when you're a top program, when you're a national championship team, there's going to be coaching turnover, but Coach Day has given Brian Hartline the promotion he deserves as the best wide receivers coach. Keenan Bailey moved up pretty quickly, and I think there's been a very strong focus. We've heard this from the weight room and at practice, a lot of focus on blocking. That's been a big role for them in getting him in the weight room. I mean, G. Scott was a great example, the development he had over the course of his time at Ohio State. So they're built in the weight room, and this has been, the offseason's probably one of the most valuable times for that tight end room, and that'll be a strong unit coming into this season.
On the defensive side, they were excellent last year, opportunistic. How's the defense this year for Ohio State?
Well, they lose their D coordinator to an opponent in the conference.
State.
Yep, we played them first weekend of November at the Horseshoe, and I just talked with Caleb Downs about it, and there was really only one game where things looked awful, and I mentioned it was nearly 500 yards they gave up to Oregon, and his face was like, yeah, I clearly have not thought about that in a bit, because they turned it around immediately. I mean, there were some mistakes on offense, and I mean, that red zone defense, I've always said I've never been this excited to watch defense until that team. You lose a lot of talent. You lose your entire D-line to the draft, and you still got Caleb Downs back there.
Exceptional safety transfer from Alabama.
Probably the first overall. Yeah, lots of Alabama over here, but Caleb, having him on your team significantly helps, having a leader, because so much leadership left. And I had a conversation with Heather Dinich about this, that veteran experience is so significant when it comes to the postseason and winning those big games. They lost a lot of talent on defense, but you got Caleb Downs, the best defensive player in the country. He's built like an NFL guy. He talks like one. He plays like one. He was drawing up plays when he was like 5 years old. So having him back there really helps. And Sonny Styles decides to come back, and they have more leadership. Matt Patricia, I talked with him at a coach's clinic. I haven't even talked to him on the record yet. I've only talked to him off the record, and there's a lot of questions about that hiring, because he took a year off with the Detroit Lions as a head coach, but as a coordinator, he's proven. And, everyone's saying, oh, is it because of Belichick? Well, he's getting a lot of praise out here in Columbus, and Belichick in Carolina is having some questions. But let me just tell you, when I talked to Matt Patricia, he had me wanting to run through a brick wall just talking defense. So as much as I loved last year's number one scoring defense and all the talent we lost, I'm still so excited to watch that defense play. And Caleb kept saying, I can't wait to get to fall camp. There's a lot to be excited about.
One of the question marks last year was that Michigan game, playing at home, 2 1,000-yard rushers, I think 2 1,000-yard receivers, a 3,000-yard quarterback, probably a $2 million coordinator, and they scored 10 points at home. It just seems like, where was the creativity in that game? Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, they just froze, it seemed like. So that was a strange thing that happened last year. But after that, they took off, and it was wide open. So I'm thinking that's not going to happen again.
You almost want to say, it feels awful to say, but Ohio State, after a loss, you don't want to mess with. So I don't even know how well they would have done in the playoffs if it weren't for that Michigan loss. Because I mean, they were dialed in every single time. I mean, at the Rose Bowl, you were there. It was strictly a business trip. It was all about the mindset. After Michigan, they had a coaches player meeting. Emeka Buka said it, like, they held the coaches accountable. What was with that play calling? And that they addressed it immediately. These coaches are very close to this team and have the relationship where they can listen to the issues that they had. They weren't happy with the play calling against Michigan. You could have questioned, well, when he went down, Will Howard, he wasn't as strong coming back in. So that could have changed the game plan further. There's no excuses for how they played. Defense showed up, but that was an offensive question mark. And then I think when you say they froze, that was very clear in the aftermath brawl on the field. I mean, I got pepper sprayed, and so I lost my vision a little bit, but I go back and look at the video, and it looked like time stood still for Coach Day. It was mayhem around him, and he just stood there frozen. The same thing happened to Will Howard.
Okay. All right, okay. Ohio State will be successful if
they can get these early early reps in a significant way. The experience is what I'm most concerned about, but I believe in the leadership that they have. They have 2 new coordinators, but again, a lot of emphasis on that NFL experience. This game is operating like an NFL team. Now there's a salary cap. There's an extended playoff. That helped them significant. Last year, Chip Kelly even said Ohio State played the fewest reps by design of all the postseason teams, and they're building up from it from week 1. It does. Coach Jay said this. It changes things a little bit with week 1 being Texas, so that's the biggest question mark. They get a big test early on so they can get significant experience. And the nice thing about it is a lot of the time they forget about those early losses. I mean, Notre Dame and Northern Illinois, yes. They seem to forget about that one when they were doing the rankings with Indiana ranked lower after losing to Michigan or Ohio State later in the season, but that Northern Illinois loss wasn't as significant. So that's something the CFP will look at, and getting that experience will be valuable, especially when it's non-conference. Right. But if it's a win, it's a great asset. But I'm not going to let this game sway me too much, because I mean, this is the first time a lot of those guys are going to play in big time moments, and it's going to happen week 1.
Yeah, we saw you can lose a couple of games and still be in contention.
Yep.
So, okay, Stephanie, thank you so much for taking a few moments. This is AP Stedham live in Las Vegas, Nevada at the 2025 Big Ten Football Media Days. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.